What if I told you that the safest decision my family ever made for me was also the most devastating? That the place promising to give me my golden years actually stole what was left of my life? My name is Thomas. I'm 85 years old, and 3 years ago, I made a decision that seemed so reasonable and responsible that my entire family celebrated it. I moved into assisted living. Today, I'm going to tell you what really happens behind those beautifully decorated doors, not the horror stories you might expect about abuse or neglect. This place is actually well run. No, I'm talking about something much more insidious. I'm talking about how they systematically strip away everything that makes you, you. If someone you love is considering assisted living, or if you're facing this choice yourself, what I'm about to share could save you from the biggest mistake of your life. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you'll understand why I'd give anything to go back and choose differently. Hit that like button if you want to hear the truth they don't put in the brochures, and subscribe because I've got more shocking revelations about aging in America that families desperately need to hear. Chapter 1. The Schedule Prison. How they control your every move.
7 a.m. wake-up call.
7:30 a.m. breakfast, no exceptions. 9 a.m. morning activities. 11:30 a.m. lunch. 2 p.m. afternoon programming. 5 p.m. dinner. 8 p.m. evening activities. 9 p.m. prepare for bed. Look at this schedule. Seems reasonable, right? This is how they trap you. I haven't eaten breakfast at the time I wanted to in 3 years. 3 years. Before Sunrise Manor, I was a night owl. I'd stay up until midnight reading, sleep until 8:30, then make myself a leisurely breakfast while listening to the morning news. It was my rhythm, developed over 8 decades of life. That ended on day 1. Picture this. I wake up naturally at 8:45 a.m., 15 minutes after breakfast ends. I walk to the dining room hoping for coffee and toast. "Oh, honey," the supervisor says, "breakfast ended 15 minutes ago, but lunch will be ready in a few hours." I hadn't gone without breakfast in 60 years. But here's the truly sinister part. They don't present this as a rule. They present it as structure and routine. They say it's good for you. They make you feel like the problem for wanting to eat when you're hungry instead of when the kitchen is convenient. Think about your morning routine right now. What if someone told you that tomorrow you had to eat breakfast at exactly 7:30 a.m. or not at all? How would that feel? Now imagine that's not just breakfast. That's everything. When you eat, when you socialize, when you're allowed to use common areas, when you go to bed. Comment below. What time do you usually eat breakfast? Because I guarantee it's not the same time every single day for the rest of your life. The activities are even worse. Tuesday is bingo at 2 p.m. every Tuesday, forever. Don't like bingo? Too bad. Want to read in the common area during bingo? Nope. You can rest in your room. Those were my choices. Participate in their scheduled activity or sit alone like I was being punished. At home, if I wanted to read in my living room at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, I read in my living room. Here, I have to listen to B7 and 32 inches while I'm trying to concentrate on my book. You know what this really is? It's institutional efficiency disguised as care. It's easier to manage 100 people if they all do the same thing at the same time. Your individual preferences? They don't matter. If you're realizing that assisted living might be more like prison than paradise, smash that like button and let me know in the comments what part of your daily routine could you never give up. Chapter 2. The Intelligence Insult. Why Everything is Dumbed Down.
This is what they wanted me to make yesterday. I have a master's degree in English literature. I taught high school for 35 years, and they handed me safety scissors and construction paper.
The intellectual suffocation in assisted living is something nobody warns you about, and it's killing me slowly. During my tour, I was so impressed. They had a library, a book club, educational programs. I thought, finally, I'll have intellectual peers to discuss literature with. The book club was reading romance novels chosen because they were light and easy to follow. The discussion lasted 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And it consisted entirely of people saying whether they liked or didn't like the main character. At my previous book club, the one I had to give up to move here, we'd spend hours analyzing themes, debating character development, connecting literature to philosophy and current events. Here, I liked when she got married at the end. I offered to lead a more advanced discussion group for residents who wanted it. You know what they told me?
We tried that once, but it made some people feel left out.
So because some people might feel excluded from intellectual discussion, nobody gets to have intellectual discussion. Every single program is designed for the lowest common denominator. The art activities, pre-cut felt pieces and glue sticks. The cooking class, no bake cookies, exercise, only chair exercises because anything else might be too challenging. I volunteered to tutor local children in reading, drawing on decades of teaching experience. Insurance doesn't cover activities with outside minors. I asked to help in the kitchen. I've been cooking for 70 years. Health department regulations. I wanted to start a writing workshop. We don't have the staffing to supervise that. Do you see what's happening here? Every attempt to use my skills, my experience, my knowledge, blocked. They don't want residents to be experts at anything. They want us to be patients. Here's what they don't tell you. Keeping your brain challenged is literally a matter of life and death for older adults. Research shows that intellectual stimulation prevents cognitive decline, but assisted living facilities actively work against intellectual engagement in the name of fairness and safety. You know what's really unsafe? Turning intelligent, capable people into passive recipients of mindless activities. Comment below, what intellectual activity could you not live without? Because when you move to assisted living, you probably will have to. The most heartbreaking part? There are other residents here who are just as frustrated as I am. Former engineers, nurses, business owners, teachers, all of us sitting in a circle, gluing felt onto cardboard, pretending this is meaningful. We look at each other with these expressions that say, is this really what our lives have become? If you're starting to see why assisted living might be intellectual prison, hit that subscribe button because my next chapter is going to blow your mind. It's about how they systematically destroy your independence, even when you don't need help. Chapter 3. The Independence Illusion. How they make you helpless. These are the keys to my old house. I carried them for 40 years. Now they're just a paperweight because I'll never unlock my own door again. But the real tragedy isn't losing my house keys, it's losing something far more precious, my ability to solve my own problems. When I moved here, I was still completely capable of personal care. I cooked my own meals, managed my medications, made my own decisions. I thought I was trading some privacy for safety while keeping my independence. I was wrong. Independence isn't just about dressing yourself or taking pills. Real independence is about making meaningful choices about your life. And they take those away so gradually you don't notice until it's too late. I can't adjust the temperature in my room. It's controlled centrally. I can't rearrange my furniture. It has to be positioned for safety inspections. I can't keep my preferred foods. Dietary regulations. I can't open my window. Safety policy.
But here's the most insidious part. After a year of having every problem handled by staff, I stopped thinking of myself as someone who could handle problems.
At home, if something broke, I fixed it or found someone to fix it. If I needed something from the store, I got it. If I wanted to change my plans, I changed them. Here, every problem gets reported to staff. Every need goes through the system. Every change requires approval. They turned me from a problem solver into a problem reporter. And the scariest part, I didn't realize it was happening. 6 months ago, a light bulb burned out in my room. My first instinct wasn't to change it myself, something I'd done thousands of times. My first instinct was to call maintenance. That's when I realized what they'd done to me. You want to know the real reason they control everything? It's not about safety. It's about liability and efficiency. It's easier to manage you if you can't manage yourself. Every door locked for security, every activity supervised for safety, every decision filtered through staff for your own good.
But here's what nobody tells you. Learned helplessness is dangerous for older adults. When you stop practicing independence, independence becomes impossible. The very abilities they're supposedly protecting deteriorate from lack of use.
I moved here to maintain my independence while getting support with specific challenges. Instead, I traded my independence for comprehensive management of every aspect of my life. Drop a comment if you've ever had someone help you so much that you forgot how to help yourself, because that's what assisted living does, systematically. And the cruelest irony? My physical capabilities have declined faster here than they would have at home. When you're not challenged, when everything is done for you instead of with you, your body and mind weaken. The safety concerns that made my family move me here, they're now legitimate because the environment designed to prevent them actually created them. If this is making you angry about how we treat older adults in this country, smash that like button and subscribe, because it gets worse. Next, I'm going to tell you how assisted living destroys family relationships in ways that will shock you. Chapter 4, The Relationship Killer, How I Became a Visitor in My Own Family. Look at these two pictures, same family, same love, but everything changed. In the first photo, we're at my house. I'm serving coffee in my favorite cups, showing them flowers from my garden, asking their help with a project. We're equals having a relationship. In the second photo, they're visiting me here. I'm sitting in a sterile room while they update me on their lives. I've become someone they care about, not someone they live life with. This might be the most devastating part of my story. Assisted living didn't just change where I live, it changed who I am in my family. Before, when my son had problems at work, he'd call me for advice. When my daughter struggled with parenting challenges, we'd talk through solutions together. When there were family decisions to make, they asked my opinion because they valued my judgment. Now they give me updates about decisions that have already been made. I went from being a grandmother actively involved in family life to being a grandmother who receives reports about family life. You know what they don't tell you about institutional living? It doesn't just change how your family sees your living situation, it changes how they see you. When someone lives in care, family members unconsciously start treating them as fragile. They filter conversations, focusing on lighter topics so they won't worry or burden you. but I want to be worried about my grandson's college struggles. I want to help brainstorm solutions for my daughter's career challenges. I want to be burdened with real family problems because that means I'm still useful. Instead, I get sanitized updates designed to make me feel included without actually including me. The physical environment makes it worse. There's no privacy for serious conversations, no comfortable kitchen where we can cook and talk, no space that feels like mine where I can host them properly. Visits have this artificial structure now, beginning, middle, end. They arrive, we sit in my tiny room or the fishbowl common area. We make pleasant conversation for an acceptable amount of time. Then they leave to return to their real lives. I miss being part of their real lives instead of being a detour from them. Comment below, when did you last ask an older family member for serious advice about your problems? Because I guarantee it happens less once they're in institutional care. But here's the most heartbreaking part. I can see the relief in their eyes. They're relieved that I'm taken care of, so they don't have to worry anymore, and that relief creates distance that nobody talks about. They visit out of love and duty. But the spontaneous connection, the mutual support, the feeling that we're in life together, that's gone. My relationships with friends disappeared even faster. The distance made visits difficult. The institutional setting made them uncomfortable. Most painfully, I went from being someone who could offer support to others to being someone who only receives it. Friends stopped calling when they had problems. They started treating me like someone who had enough to deal with, not someone who might have wisdom to offer. If you're realizing that moving someone to assisted living changes the entire family dynamic, hit that subscribe button because families need to understand this before they make irreversible decisions. Chapter 5. The Financial Trap, How They Engineered My Prison. $5,200 per month, times 12 months, times 3 years, $187,200, gone forever. And you know what I have to show for it? The inability to ever live independently again. They don't just take your money, they trap you with it. Because once you've spent this much on institutional care, you literally cannot afford to leave. My house, the one I lived in for 40 years, the one with equity that could have funded in-home care for decades, had to be sold to pay for this place. Do you know what $187,200 could have bought me at home? A live-in companion for 8 years, daily housekeeping for 15 years, meal delivery for 25 years, medical alert systems for 50 years. But nobody presented those options as real alternatives. The only conversation was dangerous independence or safe assisted living. And here's the cruel mathematical reality. The longer you stay, the less likely you can ever leave. Not just because you run out of money, but because institutional living makes you need institutional living. Remember how I told you my physical capabilities declined faster here? Well, now those declines justify the cost. See how much she needs our help, they say about problems they helped create. I moved here when I was managing fine independently. 3 years later, I genuinely do need help with things I used to do myself. But not because I got older, because I got institutionalized. The financial model is designed to be permanent. They price it high enough that you spend down your assets, then low enough that families feel guilty questioning the ongoing cost. $5,200 per month for what? A 12 by 14 room, institutional food and activities designed for people with dementia. I was paying $1,200 per month for my entire house, including taxes and utilities. Comment below. What could you do with an extra $4,000 per month? Because that's what families are spending to warehouse older adults instead of supporting them at home. And the marketing. luxury senior living, resort-style amenities, maintenance-free lifestyle. You know what's luxury? Making your own coffee when you want it. You know what's resort style? Having a swimming pool you can actually use without signing up 3 days in advance. You know what's maintenance-free? Not having to ask permission to hang a picture on your wall. The financial trap isn't just about money. It's about eliminating options until assisted living becomes the only choice. Not because it's the best choice, but because they've made it the only choice. If you're getting angry about how this industry preys on families' fears while emptying their bank accounts, smash that like button and subscribe, because I'm about to share what I wish I'd known before it was too late. Chapter 6. What I'd do differently. The alternative path. Nobody showed me. This is the list of alternatives my family and I never seriously considered. It's going to break your heart when you see how many better options we ignored. If I could go back to that conversation in my kitchen 3 years ago, the one where my family convinced me this place was my safest option, here's what I would demand we try first. Home modifications, medical alert systems, daily check-in services, meal delivery programs, transportation services, adult day programs, companion care, housekeeping services. Every single one of these addresses specific problems without destroying your entire life structure. I was lonely. Adult day programs and companion services could have solved that. My family worried about falls. Medical alert systems and home modifications. Grocery shopping was getting difficult. Delivery services cost $15 per week, not $5,200 per month. But nobody presented these as serious long-term solutions. They were dismissed as temporary measures until I really needed assisted living. You know what I really needed? Someone to advocate for keeping me in my own home with targeted support for specific challenges. Here's what I would have insisted on. Clear criteria for what circumstances would actually necessitate institutional care. Not fears about what might happen, but specific functional losses or safety incidents that would trigger that conversation. For example, if I fell twice in 6 months, if I forgot medications regularly, if I had a medical emergency showing I couldn't manage alone. Having those benchmarks would have prevented a premature move based on anxiety instead of evidence. I also would have negotiated the terms differently if assisted living became necessary. Private room from the beginning. Privacy is crucial for mental health. More control over my schedule. The right to maintain outside activities and relationships. Most importantly, I would have maintained hope for the future instead of treating the move as the end of my active life. Research shows that older adults who maintain autonomy and continue setting goals have better outcomes even in institutional settings. But I gave up too quickly on the idea that I could still grow, learn, and contribute. Comment below, what would you fight hardest to keep if someone wanted to move you to institutional care? Because those things are worth fighting for. And here's the most important thing I would have done differently. I would have had ongoing, honest conversations with my family about the decision and its consequences. After I moved here, everyone wanted to believe everything was fine. My kids needed to think I was happy so they could feel good about their decision. I felt pressure to seem content so they wouldn't worry. But this conspiracy of artificial positivity prevented us from addressing problems that might have been fixable. If I had continuing regrets, my family deserved to know that. If I was struggling with independence loss, we should have talked about solutions. If I was lonely or bored, we should have worked together to fix it. Instead, we all pretended everything was fine until the problems became too entrenched to change. If you think families need to have these honest conversations before making irreversible decisions, hit that subscribe button, because I'm about to share my final message that could save your family from this mistake. Final chapter. The truth that could save your family. I need you to hear this next part very carefully, because it could save someone you love from making the biggest mistake of their life. I am not telling you to never consider assisted living. Some people genuinely need this level of support. Some people do thrive in institutional environments. But I am telling you that this decision is almost always permanent, with permanent consequences that nobody explains up front. Don't let fear of what might happen drive a premature choice. Wait until there are clear, documented problems that genuinely cannot be addressed through in-home support. Explore every possible alternative first. The combined cost of in-home services is typically much less than institutional care, and they address specific problems without eliminating independence. Most importantly, have honest conversations about what independence means to your family member and what they're willing to risk to maintain it. Don't assume that because assisted living seems like a good solution to you, it will feel like a good solution to them. Listen seriously to resistance instead of dismissing it as stubbornness. That resistance might reflect understanding of what they'll lose that you haven't fully considered. My children genuinely wanted what was best for me, but they also wanted peace of mind for themselves and relief from daily worry about my welfare. Those are legitimate needs, but they should be acknowledged as part of the decision-making process rather than disguised as being entirely about what's best for the older adult. Here's what I want you to understand about aging. It doesn't mean you stop wanting meaningful challenge, genuine choice, and the ability to contribute to something beyond yourself. At 85, I still have opinions, curiosity, and things to offer the world. I still want to feel useful and engaged. I still value privacy, dignity, and the right to make my own decisions, even if some involve risk.
But our systems for caring for older adults assume we don't want those things anymore. They conflate safety with well-being, management with care, and survival with living.
The saddest part of my experience isn't losing independence or dealing with institutional routine or even the loneliness. It's realizing I gave up too early on the possibility that I could continue living meaningfully in my own space, on my own terms, with appropriate support for specific challenges. I accepted a comprehensive solution to problems that might have been addressed individually. And in doing so, I traded away not just my independence, but my sense of possibility. Today is Thursday. I woke up at 7:30 because that's when the building gets noisy, not because I was ready. I ate scrambled eggs because that's what was served, not what I wanted. This afternoon, I'll make construction paper crafts because that's what's scheduled, not because it's meaningful. Tomorrow will be exactly the same, and the day after that. This is my life now. It's safe, clean, and predictable, but it's not the life I would choose if I had other options. Don't let this be someone you love's story. Don't let fear make this decision for your family. Don't assume institutional care is inevitable. There are more possibilities than you think, and every older adult deserves the chance to pursue them before accepting the comprehensive management that assisted living represents. Sometimes that management is necessary, but sometimes it's not, and the difference is worth fighting for. I think about my old life every single day, not just the big things, the small daily freedoms I took for granted. Staying up late with a good book, skipping dinner if I wasn't hungry, rearranging furniture when I felt like a change, having friends drop by unexpectedly. Those weren't luxuries, they were the threads that made life feel like mine. If my story saves even one person from making this choice prematurely, if it helps even one family explore alternatives more thoroughly, if it prevents even one older adult from losing their sense of possibility too early, then sharing this painful truth will have been worth it. We need to change how we think about aging in this country. We need to stop treating older adults like problems to be managed instead of people to be supported. We need to honor the continuing desires for growth, contribution, and autonomy that don't disappear at 80 or 85 or 90. Most importantly, we need to remember that being old doesn't mean being done. It doesn't mean accepting whatever safety and convenience others think is best for us. It doesn't mean giving up on the possibility of tomorrow being different and better than today. 3 years ago, I still had choices. Today, my choices have been reduced to which activities to attend and what to order from a limited menu. Don't let this happen to someone you love. Don't let fear steal their remaining years. Don't let convenience disguised as care rob them of dignity and possibility. Fight for alternatives. Fight for independence. Fight for the right to age on their own terms, with appropriate support, in their own space, making their own decisions about their own lives. Because once you make the choice I made, you can't unmake it. And the person you're trying to protect might end up losing more than they ever needed to lose. That's my truth. That's my warning. That's my gift to families who still have time to choose differently. Don't waste it. Suppose this story opened your eyes to the reality of assisted living that nobody talks about. In that case, I need you to do something for me and for every family facing this impossible decision. Smash that like button right now. This video needs to reach families before they make choices they can't undo. The assisted living industry spends millions on marketing. We need word of mouth to share the truth they don't advertise. Subscribe and hit the notification bell because I'm not done exposing what really happens to older adults in our care system. Next week, I'm sharing the shocking truth about how assisted living facilities actually make money and why that financial model guarantees they'll never prioritize what residents actually need. I'm also working on a video about the alternatives that do work. Real stories from people who successfully aged at home with creative support systems that cost thousands less than institutional care. Most importantly, comment below and tell me, what part of your daily routine could you never give up? Have you or your family considered assisted living? What are your biggest concerns?
What alternatives are you exploring to keep older family members independent?
And please share this video with anyone whose family is having conversations about assisted living. Don't let them make this decision based only on marketing materials and fear. Your engagement with this video could literally save someone's independence. The algorithm needs to see that people care about this truth, that families are hungry for honest information instead of polished propaganda.
Hit that subscribe button if you want more unfiltered truth about aging in America. I've got stories about nursing home realities, Medicare traps, and family financial mistakes that could cost you everything.
But I also have hope. I have solutions. I have alternative paths that actually work. Stories of people who aged successfully on their own terms because they had information and support instead of fear and pressure. 3 years ago, I didn't have access to these stories. I didn't know these alternatives existed. I made my decision based on limited information and family anxiety. You don't have to. So subscribe, like, share, and comment. Not for me. For every older adult who still has choices to make and time to make them differently. Because the truth about assisted living that I wish I'd known 3 years ago, it's that there's almost always another way. You just have to know where to look and have the courage to fight for it.
See you in the comments, and I'll see you next week when I reveal how the assisted living industry's business model guarantees they'll never put residents' actual needs first.
Until then, keep fighting for independence, keep asking hard questions, and never let anyone tell you that institutional care is inevitable, because it's not.